Okay, let's talk about the player tier list. This is always fun to do. Let's set the perimeters first. Obviously, I'm going to have my bias. I have watched all the BLG games, all the KC games, all the G2 games, Top Esports, T1, LYON as well, TL as well. So that's going to be my focus. I'm not going to include the LCP teams, and I'm not going to include Furia because I don't know anything about them besides, recognizing, some of the names on those teams. I don't know how their journey was here, but I am happy to see Furia come back to this MSI after winning. I do think that's great. I think that's fantastic. Anyhow, for me, it's going to be a mix of, how I expect them to perform at this event. And that, of course, is going to include a lot of their work leading up to this tournament and also past accolades and understanding their relationship to, of course, international tournaments. And I think that part is, of course, very, very important. So let's begin with the list. Top lane, I think that you can easily slot in whatever order you want these two. Whatever order you want. On a different day, the other guy is going to be better than the other guy. I think this meta is designed for these two. I think that they have also improved their tank play immensely. Like, I can say the same thing for both guys. They have improved their tank play immensely. They have insane carry play. I don't think there's any champions that stand out as something that is a weakness for them. It's also like Bin has insane Jace games. I would say Zeus is slightly better on Jace. Just has a lot more games on it in terms of volume. But Bin's got his Jax and he's got his Camille. And I think that Bin and Zeus have gotten a lot better on Rumble. I think that these two guys are just interchangeable. I think that in terms of the standard for top lane play right now, the only thing that could maybe be a benefit to the likes of, for example, Doran, is that we have a situation where lane swaps are a lot more prevalent. I do think that lane swaps are a lot more prevalent, and I think that that's important to pinpoint. Like we have the swap to Grubs, which puts Doran in a situation where he can get involved a lot quicker in games. But I think that the danger of Doran right now is that he's very fragile when it comes to ganking. And I do think that that can be, a problem. Doran's fragility is something that scares me. If T1 can get to 20-minute mark, I do think that both Doran and Faker are very, very good when it comes to teamfight impact. And I think that Faker is very good in the early game in terms of his roams. It's a very unique style. I can highlight already, T1 as a team is very different. They played their meta very different from the other teams. In the sense that I think that a team like G2, BLG, HLE even, they drive the game through mid lane. And T1 is a team that drives the game through bot lane. You connect with jungle and support, no problem, but they do it and they drive it through Paze because it pays lanes so well. And Faker plays a lot more of a supportive style rather than being the centerpiece of the game, while other mid laners are the centerpiece of their team. You look at Knight, Caps, Zeka, Cream, they are the centerpiece of their team. And I do think that KC have tried to adapt that style too. You saw it. They played a lot heavier around mid lane with support and jungle. Like the big shift up, like if you look at someone says like Yahoo LOL, obviously you don't watch the games. The only thing that you have spent time talking about is, you've just been talking shit this entire time in chat. By talking shit, I mean just saying pointless things. You can see the big shift up for KC2. The big improvement they did in the playoffs was their mid-jungle play, like jungle support play, around mid lane. They got, in back-to-back games, I don't disagree that they play like that. I just think he's not really comparable to the others you mentioned. That's why I'm saying low. It's not a comparison. We're talking about stylistic things here. Mad Lions got defeated by Jojopyun giving first blood in all 3 games, right? It's like the standard meta game is to drive the game with jungle and support through mid lane to give as much breathing room as possible to mid lane and having ADCs that are a lot more flexible in terms of their play. That's why we saw a lot of Ziggs and Jhin and Ashe and, of course, Senna as well. But it is interesting to see because I can see LYON and KC to be the type of teams to adapt such a style. And definitely we have other bot lanes in the tournament that can lean into that. Hansama loves to play his Draven and Kalista. You know, if it comes down to it, if it turns out that these champions are good. Back to the topic at hand, we're talking about top laners. You know, I would want to put Zuyan here third. I think Zuyan, probably for those who didn't watch Top Esports play, are going to underrate Zuyan. I think the main thing for Zuyan, what you can be concerned about, and Top Esports as a whole, is the lack of international experience on their support and their top lane. I think in terms of play, like if this tier list was strictly based on what these players have shown in the season, I think that Zuyan has shown plenty. Very, very good range. He's a strong carry player. Has good, of course, a very, very strong champion pool. But for MSI, it's always the same story. Experience carries so much weight. Experience is so crucial. And that's why you can consider, for example, Doran as a player now, regardless if you like him or not, Doran is a player that has so much experience under his belt now. So if I'm going to look at this through the lens of who I'm expecting to have a bigger impact at this tournament, I do think that I have an expectation of Doran performing better than Zuyan. But I do think that Zuyan has had a very, very strong regular split. And once again, this tier list is based on my expectations on how the players are going to perform, right? So I need to, of course, keep that in mind. And I just wanted to highlight, I don't think Zuyan should be underrated as a player. Because he could come to this tournament to just have a fantastic tournament. He could. It's so rare that rookie players have their breakout performances at MSI. It's just that each role is just so damn stacked. It's like the amount of international tournaments these three have individually against Zuyan is crazy. Because Doran has been to many tournaments. He's been to MSIs, he's been to, of course, so many world championships, and that just matters. It really, really matters. We continue. The follow-up here will be quite simple, right? We are running out of players rather fast. Kana versus Broken Blade. My concern here is that I think that Kana is a budget version of what Zeus and Bin is, and I feel like a player like Broken Blade just plays unique and awkward enough for him to have more chances to be impactful against the likes of Zeus, Bin, and Doran. I think that he finds a way to carve out niche, champion choices. I think that he finds ways to be creative, and I think that that's a lot more valuable. Because I think Kana is going to ram into these three guys with things that they've seen before a million times. And I think that's important. Very important. Broken Blade has his Shen, he has his Kled, and I think that's something that can be very good, right? I can even go so far to see a world where Broken Blade performs better than Zuyan. Definitely could happen. Because I am just so concerned by the lack of experience of Zuyan. Broken Blade is getting gapped every international except first stand. No, I think that I think that you are remembering things wrong. Like Broken Blade had good international support performances. But I think that Zuyan, I don't want to underrate Zuyan. I am going to put it like this, and then finally Dokla here. And then Morgan last. Morgan, I'm not a big fan of Morgan, guys. Morgan Bird Whistle. Not a big fan of Morgan Bird Whistle. And once again, Zeus and Bin, they are interchangeable. Let's continue to jungle. Jungle is quite interesting, right? A lot of people are going to, of course, rate Skewmond very high. But I'm going to be honest, I think that Skewmond, while I think that he's really damn good, and I think I can say it right away, I think that he's a better jungler than Inspired. I've said this multiple times. I think that Inspired might be one of the most valuable players on this entire list. I don't think that you can put Kanavi, Skewmond, Owner, or Yike or Shun in LYON. And I think that they will be worse as a team. But I still think these guys, like Shun, Kanavi, Owner, Skewmond, I think that they are better junglers. Do you guys understand the nuance of what I'm trying to explain here? I think it's quite clear, right? And I'm going to judge the players through that lens. Because we have the added benefit of understanding clearly how impactful the intangibles of Inspired are, because you constantly get his voice comms. But we don't get to see that from, let's say, for example, Top Esports. Top Esports performed so well when Tian came about. Tian came in, they performed super well, and then they had like a loss streak, and then they bounced back in playoffs and did a great job, right? It's so hard to measure these things. When it comes to a tier list, I don't like including that too much, you know? Because it's very hard to measure individual player impact in that world, you know? For example, maybe Knight is just the best shot caller in the world, you know, and we would never find out, you know. Like maybe Knight is just winning every LPL. Obviously, he's insanely good, but maybe the impact he has on the team is also something that we never know, you know. Like it's hard to measure these things. Like there's a few select players where we can have an accurate measurement on that, but most players we don't have an accurate assessment of that. Anyhow, so let's pull all the names up so we can have a clear overview of everybody. That we have. Yike and Inspired and Jose Diodo. It's like the list is quite strong, you know. The list is quite nice. We have quite the nice list here. You know, what's unique about Owner to me is the fact that I think when it comes to Owner, you know, if I'm going to compare regular splits, I do think in terms of the regular split, Kanavi has been like a demon. We had also Kanavi versus Owner, the direct matchup. And the issue with Owner is that he's been quite inconsistent, right? He's been quite inconsistent. And still, with that in mind, I have so high faith with Owner coming into an international that he's going to be able to perform, you know? So it's like, for me, it just comes down to what expectations do I have for Owner at an international against Kanavi at an international? Because once again, it's the same conversation. I think that Kanavi as a player has had a better regular split than both Owner and Shun. But when it comes to, you know, how I expect them to perform at MSI, I don't know, my gut feeling tells me that I don't think that Owner is going to be a problem. Maybe that's a very cynical way of saying it, but we just have so much volume of Owner just stepping it up to the plate, you know, when it comes to internationals. Last Worlds was a quite soft one. So that would be the counter argument. Quite a soft world championship from Owner in comparison to, you know, some of his teammates, right? But we also need to highlight some of the champion changes that we expect, like Poppy being stronger, you know, and some of the Owner classics still being played. I do think the, you know, the international performances here of both Shun and Owner are carrying a lot of weight. Because I'm so excited to see Shun back at an international, obviously. We saw First Stand, where he was the best jungler in the world. We saw Shun was just the best jungler in the world. Skumon made fun of everybody, and Shun made fun of him. There's levels to the game. And I think that if BLG won the finals against T1 back in 24, I think that Shun was a very strong candidate for being the MVP. He created early game leads in every damn game. Every damn game. And I said it with the same thought process in mind earlier, and maybe I'm going to evaluate it different depending on the player. I do think that the conversation will be, right, it's like how much do I weigh it in and how do I not weigh it in. I do think that somewhere here is where I would land. It's just that like I think Skumon is great. I think all of these junglers are great. Honestly, this jungle list is stacked to the brim. So it's like being 8th for Jose Diodo here is not, you know, it's not insulting in any shape or form, you know. It's not a fault of his, you know. I think he's a very good player, you know, for the position he's in. I think he's the most important player for Team Liquid right now. But this entire list has just been amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think the biggest argument for putting Skumon the higher, I think that Skumon has been the most important player on his team. While I think for Kanavi, Shun, and Owner, they haven't. I don't think they it's about the team makeup, right? It's about the team makeup. For T1, the most important player is, of course, Keria and Pays right now, right? The most important player for BLG is Knight, easily. For HLE, it's almost there. I think you can argue for Kanavi being like most important, but I think that both Zeka and Zeus are just so damn good as solo laners that it's not a jungle-centric team, even though some games are, right? But for G2, I feel like the whole recipe is around Skumon. you know? And I think there's some value in that, you know? But I don't think it's enough for me to push him over the line, you know? Because I don't believe in that way of playing necessarily right now. But I highlight again, G2 being so Skumon-centric can be a reason to put him higher. But I just can't justify it above these three. Skumon needs years of beating these guys before I can say that. These three are demons. Skumon needs to prove himself again and again and again before I'm ready to put Skumon over these three guys. There's like a jungle pool of Kanavi, Shun, Owner, Tarzan that are just... Ooh. We continue. This is where it's gonna get spicy. But I think Knight is the best player in the tournament. Like coming in. Knight has had a ridiculous split. And people are going to say Knight is not playing against strong opposition in mid lane, but he's playing against strong opposition in teams. And I think that Cream is a fantastic mid laner, but he's playing against strong opposition in terms of teams. You play against teams. Knight makes it look very easy, and some of the scorelines that he drops game after game after game, game after game, it's ridiculous. And I understand they had close series against WE, and, you know, it's just, if you look at it through that lens, you know, you still need to operate against these teams. Because no matter how you want to view it, this is my counter argument against the people saying mid laners are weak in the LPO. By comparison to Korea, they are. Because Korea, like you have Chovy, BDD, Showmaker, Faker, Zeka. That's a demonic list. Okay? Demonic list. All of them have like won trophies. And obviously, you know, BDD hasn't won an international, but he's been damn close, you know, with shit teams. Obviously, I don't need to convince you that BDD is a good player, you know. I don't need to do that. But I would say, just because the LPL, and don't get too crazy now, listen to the exact words that I'm saying, the average level of an LPL team that is in the top bracket, okay, top bracket, I think is higher than the LCK. Because I think LPL teams are a lot more wild in the sense that they make themselves very, very awkward. While I think a lot of teams in the LCK, especially the bottom half ones, are trying too hard to conform. Because my read on the players that are, for example, in Bro or DNS, it seems like they are playing because they're hoping to join a team above them in the ladder. They are trying to replicate the teams above them, and they're trying to strive, right, towards that. But just because you face weaker mid laners doesn't necessarily mean you face weaker teams, because you still need to carry against the team to be on the scoreboard and to win, right? So that would be my counter arguments against the point of mid lane. Anyhow, we continue. Zeka has been a monster. Zeka has been amazing. Zeka has had one of the best splits of his entire career. Regardless of what you want to say about I agree that the format Road to MSI is not the greatest. But being the #1 seed coming into the tournament and dominating the round robins, which is 2 best-of-3s, and then winning the winners match against T1, that is winning a split. Winning a double round robin best-of-3 and getting first place in that, and then winning a BO5, that is winning in my opinion. That is winning the split. Obviously, the format is trash, but nobody bats an eye when the Premier League doesn't have a finals. Obviously, the tournament organizers, you know, fired or something, because who in the right mind said, you know what? We make this format, you know what we're going to cut to save costs? We're going to remove the finals. What on earth, bro? Absolute prank. I think with what we have, Zeka is the split winner. Anyhow, next in line, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. But I think Cream belongs here. Cream, easily the second best mid lane in the LPL, sorry. And the key detail here for me, when it comes to the guy, Cream as a player, let me tell you how, if you haven't watched the LPL, let me show you how much this guy has evolved. Already, just look at his champion pool. he has played 1 Akali game and 3 Yone games. In the past, he was the type of player where there were few set champions that you really, really hope that he would be on, because he wasn't the centerpiece of his team. Now, he is the centerpiece of his team, and top esports coming into this tournament isn't as... I don't think they're going to be as choky as they have been in the past, because they're not as one-dimensional as they were in the past. The point I'm trying to make here, look at the range of champions he plays. He can easily create very strong jungle mid support pairings, which I think is the crucial point of the meta. Top esports was one, if not the most flexible team in the tournament. We just look at how he has evolved as a player, and the main thing to me that stands out is that he has very big range. I think that Cream has finally evolved into veteranship. A veteran mid laner is the one that wants to be played around, that wants to have that attention, and can play the majority of champions that are in the meta. And I think that that's Cream right now. I think that Cream is that guy right now. I think Cream has been very good. Faker, obviously, there's a world where Faker is gonna end up here, bro. Like there's definitely a world where Faker can end up here. He can have a better tournament than these guys because it's Faker. Faker, you know, his split performance has kind of left a little bit to desire, you know. He's had some goofy moments. I think that could be said for both T1 solo laners, where it's like, oh shit, this is a proper goof. What are we doing? But I think Faker coming in as 4th. I think the trend for Faker always, in terms of how he ramps up his performance, it's usually MSI. He tends to do well at MSI. Then Summer Split goes to shit because of MSI, and then he ramps up to the World Championship. And then it's like, it's always segmented like that. I don't know if it's injury related. I don't know if it's, of course, could be related to injury for sure. Could be related to more media, more, of course, obligations outside of the game. I think this is the first time in a long time where Caps isn't the central player of the team. I think Skewmond is the most important player on G2 right now. And I think that could be a great thing. Maybe it allows Caps to have really great tournaments. Maybe there's some relief there. And Caps is a demon, you know? Caps is definitely the kind of guy, you know, if we look where the meta is, maybe the fact that Sylas and Syndra are buffed and big in the meta is going to make Caps insane. Anyhow, keep in mind, in terms of the heavy lifting here, I think Cream has had a fantastic regular split. Zeka's had a fantastic regular split. Zeka's had international performances. One of the greatest international performances of all time is the 2022 Zeka Worlds run. Because what was so special about that, all the best mid laners in the world look like shit. In comparison to him, Chovy, Scout, Xiaohu, Faker. To be in a game 5, okay? I know everyone looked at the center point, Caitlyn, Bard, all that jazz. But to be in a game 5 and be like, you know what, guys? I can just take the Azir away and I'm going to dominate. Like, he was a Chad. People look back at Zeka's run and like, haha, it was just good for him because Akali Syndra with the meta, bro. He was the best Ahri at the tournament. His Orianna was insane. His Azir was crazy. Absolutely nuts. Anyhow, we continue. Kiaho versus Saint. I think it's like, whatever. Not that big of a deal. I think Yahoo is probably better. I think Saint has like some unique champions like Sylas. Maybe LB, you know. He can be explosive on. But I think he's like too incomplete. I think like Saint is like a worse version of Honkyu, I feel like. I think he's a little bit too incomplete. I think that he offers too much risk to the game. And I think Yahoo had a very massive glow up when it came to the playoffs. In both series that he played against G2 and MKOI. The final guy, who are we missing? Quid. Quid, like, also played a little bit better in playoffs, but Quid has been like one of the most disappointing players for me in the world. Because I remember how big of a deal the Quid signing was. A lot of teams were competing for him because of the insane 100 Thieves run they had. But he's been very disappointing on this Team Liquid. Very disappointing. I had way higher expectations, and I'm pretty sure Team Liquid did too. Bot lane. 2 players that are fighting for first place. 2 players might come as a surprise to people. This might come as a surprise play because people might think 3. Or which 2 are you thinking about, Yamato? Is it Viper, Gumayusi, or playins? Gumayusi and playins, I can argue for either being first. But I think that Gumayusi is probably the best ADC in the world right now at playing what is considered the global meta. In the sense that playing ADC in isolation, picking strong laners, finding supportive angles, right? Your support is roaming, fighting on the mid lane, and him finding ways to farm in isolation, pushing mid waves, and then just really choosing your timers to fight. Think about his Jhin. Think about his Ziggs. Think about even, his Senna. Think about his Misfortune. I think that Gumayusi has done a fantastic job. Fantastic job on HLE. This split has been amazing. But what is interesting about playins is that I think playins' role, similar to how I said Scumon's role is in terms of priorities, playins probably is the ADC that has the most important role on his team out of all ADCs here at this tournament. Because as I mentioned before, T1 is going to drive the game through bot lane. And Keria and playins are going to find lane leads to, of course, snowball the game and have playins in a situation for a lead. Keep in mind something that we checked earlier. The player that has like the highest first blood rate out of all the people we checked, you naturally think is going to be a jungler. But look at his first blood rate. 37% is mental. So you take a look at somebody else, you think maybe Kanavi could be there. He's still very high. But this is a jungler, 35.6, that's very high. But somehow playins is higher. You think about other junglers. Tian we can't check, but let's say Owner. Owner is 29 as a jungler. The detail that makes me want to put Gumayusi over playins in the end is the series they actually played. Because that should matter. T1 couldn't break their bot lane as they want to, And that's the main thing, right? Is as a team, T1 is going against the grain here. And the cool thing about T1 is the fact that this team does best when they go against the grain. Next in line is going to be Viper. This might sound crazy, but I think Viper is the least important player on BLG. He is amazing. He's really good, but he's the least important. Viper is really damn good at the game, but he's not super important. BLG solo laners in Bin and Knight are just so damn good. And their jungle and support are also so damn good. It just happens to be, if I think about, where the meta is at and what I perceive as the best way to approach the game currently, I think BLG is the face of that. They broke the meta at first stand, and I think that the world has been kind of catching up to that style of play. In HLE, G2 was also, of course, in tune with that way of playing, and LAC is also catching up on that style of play. When I say this style of play is jungle and support driving the game through mid lane, weak side ADC, and leveraging mid prio to then snowball sides secondarily. And don't get me wrong, even though I say Viper is the least important, it just happens to be that everyone else is just so damn important. Viper's still gonna be pretty damn good. He's not gonna lose them the game or some shit, He's gonna be crazy good. He's going to play an Ezreal game, and Shun, like Viper and On, are just gonna smurf it up. So don't think of this as me downplaying this guy. I just wanted to talk about BLG. If BLG win MSI, it's going to be because, wow, Bin and Knight are so damn good. And Shun and On just dominate every early game, and then Knight and Bin get leads, and then they're gonna carry the game. And sprinkled between that is gonna be like, damn, Viper had like a 7-0 Ezreal game. Ooh, look at that. It's gonna be sprinkled. Because Viper and On, really strong laners. We continue. If there's anything to talk about when it comes to top esports potentially choking at this tournament, please explain why is Viper being punished because of the way BLG play, but Skew is not being rewarded for the way G2 play around him? Because the players in the position, the players in his role are very different. Who is the equivalent of Jackie Love in the jungle? He has different opposition, mate. And obviously, this is my list. So I'm going to evaluate things depending on, obviously, how I perceive them. Let's continue. I don't know. These three boys, I don't know. On a different day, I might rate them different. Hansama has the most international experience. Kalist, I think, in the split was better than Hansama, especially the finals. But Hansama's international experience is very relevant here. I think it's just... It's hard to place them. Kalist went one international, and he played quite good on that international, right? I don't know. I'm going to take into account how the split went and how the finals went. And I'm going to just put Kalist over Hans. But this, as I mentioned with some of my other choices too, like I can shift this up and down. Keep in mind, Jackie Love has been really, really good in the regular split. But in the context of top esports and how they could potentially fumble and choke at this tournament, Jackie Love was one of those guys. Tian was not. Like, the recent international tournaments Tian has been to, he wasn't the problem. It's just the stink from 2021 that is remaining, you know? Definitely remaining. Tian is not the problem when it comes to, like, international play. Jackie Love, Zuyan, and Feng Yue. These guys, Jackie Love, history. And then, of course, you have Zuyan and Feng Yue are just rookies, you know? But it's once again one of those things. Jackie Love has been so insane regular season. He's been really good. He's been, like, really good. Jackie Love had the better regular season than Viper, yeah. I think so, too. But Jackie Love has got that stank about him, bro. Scary. I don't know. I'm liking Hansama's international experience, bro. I like it. I'm gonna put him here. I'm gonna put him here. All right. Support. Keria. No brainer. Easy peasy. Don't need to complicate it more than that. On second place. On is the only person that could have a series where he plays better than Keria. I think that's fair. Like, On, I think that BOG deserve a lot of respect because they have shaped the meta in the new season. Doesn't mean that they're gonna be the best at it, 100%, even though I think BOG is a strong, like, favorite coming into this tournament, right? But Keria took so much inspiration from On. And it's very rare that we get to say that, because usually most players get to, of course, take inspiration from Keria. On was first on Anivia support, he's first on Skana support, he's first on Camille support. This guy has a very, very good idea of how to find impact in the game. Shen support. Like, he's just a goddamn wizard, and it's not because he's avoiding to play the regular champions, he's going to be so damn good on them. But these two guys are playing the support role in a different way than everybody else. And there's going to be series once in a while where they don't hit the right frequency and look like inters. Even Keria has that, right? But that doesn't make me think that Delight is better than Keria suddenly. They are dancing with the goddamn devil, always. Feng Yue is also really good. He's also really good. Like, top esports, their rookies are really good. I have to make that clear, bro. I have to make that clear. Their rookies are really good. Let's put these other guys here. So Feng Yue is really damn good. But Labrov, bro, I don't know. I believe in Labrov. I believe in Labrov, bro. I'm liking Labrov. Feng Yue is mechanically really good. Demonic. But I'm worried about players that have never been to an international, bro. Plain and simple. I worry about these guys. Labrov was playing. Labrov, this split, convinced me that he's allowed to be in conversation with Mickey and Hilly. He's got the right map movements. He's got the right instinct. He is actually playing a very, very aggressive game. Obviously, there's only one split because Mickey and Hilly did that for a lifetime. But I'm just saying, strictly from support, he's actually playing the Mickey Hilly game, which is the Western equivalent of the On Keria game. I'm really happy Team Liquid made it, but I thought when this roster was made, I thought they're going to be a lot better than they currently are. But NA has just been, the level of NA has just been kind of disappointing. All right, let's just do the teams. Teams is very interesting. I'm going to require a lot of context to get my thoughts out, okay? Really, really require context. Because I think there's 3 teams that can win the tournament. 3 teams that can win the tournament, I don't think that the other teams are in the conversation of being able to win the tournament. What is required for you to be able to win the tournament? I think you need to have the individual skill ceiling. You need to have the experience. You need to come from a region that has really hardened you in a way that you can't really attain in the other regions, which of course is the LPL and the LCK. Top esports don't belong in this conversation at all because they've got Jackie Love, who's had past performances that are rough, and also they have rookies on the team. They are not ready. They are simply not ready, even though in 2 years, Feng Yue and Zuya might just be like mainstay names, right? That's how good they are in the talent department. Insanely good, okay? But the 3 teams that can potentially win this tournament are simply BOG, T1, and HLE. And if I think about chances for it to line up, I can make the argument as to why each one of these teams can win. Easily. Someone told me, Yamato, tell me why HLE is going to win the tournament. Tell me why BOG is going to win the tournament. Tell me why T1 is going to win the tournament. I can make arguments. In the end, you got to kind of listen to your gut, you know, in terms of how you set things up. Because if we look at it through the lens of percentage, like if I say BOG has a 30% chance to win this tournament, and I think HLE has a 28% chance to win the tournament, and then I think that T1 has a 25% chance to win the tournament. These are like small percentage differences, right? Going off of tangible and intangible things. Because once again, this is my bias, right? You're looking at my list, my conversation about the teams. But let's do the breakdown of the teams, and then maybe in my thought process, maybe I'm going to, you know, realize certain things that I like and do enjoy. So let's make the arguments. BOG. I think BOG are the flag bearers right now of the current version of League of Legends, right? We saw that from first stand, and we saw that translated and echoed. G2 were also flag bearers of that, but obviously they met their match when they played against BOG because BOG and G2 figured out the meta at first stand. That meta carried over to the regular split. That's why a team like Genji has scrambled a lot, because that's a team driven by solo lanes and their jungle and support cannot connect. Canyon and, of course, Duro, they're like polar opposite. Polar opposite. For me, the most important thing about the game currently is jungle and support and how you drive it through mid. That's the meta game. And there's teams that do it differently. We're going to get to T1 and talk about how they do it differently. But when I think about the meta game right now, I do think that BOG is the best suited for dealing with just that and playing just that. It helps that on that conversation piece, that I do think that they have the strongest mid lane coming into the tournament. That's super important. And I do think that Shun and On, when they are on, they can be the best jungle support duo in the world. And they have collective experience playing together at the same level of Honor and Keria. And it's impossible to replace that. Shun and On have played together just as much as Honor and Keria play together. Anyhow, the solo lanes in Knight and Bin, they can carry games on many, many different champions. I don't think there's a flaw in the champion pool right now. And I think that the changes in the patch that we're getting are so good for Knight. I said that back in 24 as well. But Chovy was just too damn good, so he forced his own meta. But the fact that Syndra is getting better, LeBlanc is getting better, Silas is getting better, it's Knight's wet dream. And I think that I will give BOG a slight edge over HLE and T1 to win this tournament. I think this is one of the closest MSIs we've had, bro. One of the closest MSIs. I'm just trying to look at it for the teams we have at the top, one of the closest ones. Syndra will be a champ for game 4 and 5s. I think Syndra might be a game 1-2 champ. That's how strong it is. They gave it 10 flat damage on Q and more base health. They just improved their early game immensely to a champion that already scaled super well. BLG to me is just the image of what I believe is the most important aspects of the current meta game. I think they have a top laner that can grapple and potentially even beat Zeus on a good day. And I think Zeus and Bin are the only 2 players that can say that about each other, which makes their stylistic matchup into Kanavi very good. What's interesting narratively is that Kanavi is heading into this tournament and he's facing his 2 biggest demons, International T1 and BOG. BOG always stopped Kanavi outside of the JDG year. There was one, I think it was Winter Split, where Top Esports beat BLG. So fair play, he got one, right? But narratively, Kanavi is fighting a lot of demons of his past. And that's a lot of fun to follow. Anyhow, I think also something that is very different about this BLG, and I think Danny deserves a lot of prop for this, is that for the first time since Tabe's time, this team actually looks like it's getting coached. There's not a lot of people that can be in a room with these guys and actually control it. And Danny has found a way because they actually have structure to their play. The biggest criticism that you can leverage against BLG, right, is the fact that obviously this is a team that was quite sloppy in the run-up to their finals. But I do think that BLG, it's kind of a mirror to what G2 did regionally. There was never a point in time for anyone that watches LPL, even when they dropped into lower bracket, where anyone ever thought that BLG is not going to win the split. The same way G2, when they went to Game 5 with MKOI, let's say they lost there. Would you believe, if MKOI didn't throw that game, would you believe that G2 wouldn't win the finals? No. And I think people are looking at the WE thing as a big, red flag. I think that's fair. Just in terms of what the contracts are worth, you shouldn't be losing against WE. WE is a team that do something that no other team does. In the sense that BLG is a team that, when it comes to this field, in terms of how On and Shun operate the early game, they are probably the best. But Monkey has found a way, almost in every damn game, Monkey finds a way to break the play ahead of the enemy's play. And obviously, if you can find a way to do that, maybe Kanavi can, because he's kind of a demon. Monkey is the only one that has shown that he can kind of break the structure of BLG's early game. While against everybody else, BLG is just dominating the early game. Because they have first action, first invade, first play, first level 3 gank. While Monkey is like, boo, doo, 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 doo. He listens to the Rude Sandstorm and just finds crazy angles. And I don't think teams can replicate that same way. I don't think they can. Obviously, that speaks to BLG and their reliance on the rhythm. They have really strong early game, but they also rely on that early game. Because their solo laners like to play a certain way. Their jungle and support, when they're dominating, they have full control over enemy jungle and support. Which means that Knight and Bin can lane however the hell they want. And if they can, they thump you and murder you. But if they can't, maybe there were games where Monkey found a level 3 invade, ganked mid, burnt a flash mid, and then found a crazy angle to gank top through lane, killed Bin one time, and then it's like, And that's a way to disrupt BLG. The team that could potentially do this is HLE, with how crazy Kanavi is. HLE, I think in many ways, HLE and BLG are similar. I think the key detail for me is that I think that On is better than Delight. Doesn't mean Delight is bad. Delight's really good. But I think On is better than Delight. I think he has just an additional layer of freak. When you have very strong players, very strong laners, the level of creativity you need to find in order to break is way higher. And I think that On has that spice. And I think that his champion pools is a little bit deeper, a little bit wider. And I think that matters in the matchup. HLE, very similar, right? Very strong solo laners. The ZZ top side. You got Zeka, Zeus. Back and forth. Really demonic. Kanavi can carry games. His invades are really powerful. Kanavi's had bad games, but mostly majority of games, they've done really good, right? In terms of HLE and the roster construction, this team carried a lot of risk. Because you had so many players, pretty much every single player, that can be the best under certain circumstances. And I think for HLE, props to Home, the coach, has managed to really figure out a way to make all their strengths shine. Delight, you sprinkle in a little bit more engaged supports, which is nice for him. Gumayushi, the weak side king, we talked about it earlier, right? Zeka has been insane, just amazing. something that is awkward for ZOFGK is that the patch might not be the best for him. I imagine Knight, for the Knight, the patch is very good, but I don't know. I have zero memories of ZOFGK playing Syndra. Anyhow, I think the differences are small. I think it's in Knight's performance against ZOFGK's, even though ZOFGK has been amazing, and On's performance against the Light. And I think if HLE beat BOG, it is going to be because Zeus has played better than Bin. And that's a big ask. But I think that's what needs to happen in order for them to win. Because we've seen some patch changes that benefit both of these guys, right? Jax is improved for Bin. Gwen is improved. Tank nerfs. They are blessed, bro. These two guys are blessed. The thing is, people that say BOG bad late game, I have seen all three of these teams throw games. I have seen the 5 best teams at this tournament. All these teams have thrown games in disgusting ways. Why? All 5 of these teams, they are currently the best teams at this tournament, right? These 5 teams. We've seen a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. We've seen overforces because the game is insanely snowbally. In the sense that when you're at a disadvantage, you need to look for opportunities. And I think that for a lot of these teams that play very, very high pressure to gain momentum in the game, it is very difficult to create a circumstance where you slow down. There's so many beats you need to hit in the game right now as a jungle and support and as someone that wants to dominate the game in terms of macro and finding the right fights. It is about finding the time to be on your solo lane on side. It's about leveraging vision. It's about being in fog of war. It's about being in base. And it's about really leveraging the information available to you in the sense that it's going to be imperfect. And you need to judge your situations real-time perma. Because the added layer of everything that I'm saying is that the highest level players are all perma fake pressuring. Meaning, you as someone that farms, you're not allowed to show that your teammate's base. So you're going to fake pressure. You're going to fake pressure. And in those moments, sometimes you reach pivotal moments in the game where the enemy needs to call your bluff because they're getting suffocated. So there's that. Anyhow, conversation about T1. In past tournaments, T1 have set the meta their own way. And I think coming into this one, they will do the same. Faker has a very unique playstyle. The only players that are like almost comparable in some ways is Caps and Faker. Meaning, Faker uses any timer he has and sacrifices mid-waves to actually like teleport into side, to roam with Talia, to roam with TF, to roam with Ryze. He is not the central point of the team. He's often fighting for himself. And I think from T1's perspective, that's the correct thing to do. Because Faker's laning hasn't been the best. But he's the most resilient motherfucker out there. He is so resilient. He can like in 3 times, die 3 times, and it doesn't matter. He's not gonna skip a beat, bro. He doesn't give a damn. That makes T1 very unique in the sense that these 3 guys are gonna have a lot of pressure through mid, and they're gonna gain leads, and then they're gonna cut into side, while Faker is going to try to get ahead of that. And T1's gonna try to get ahead of that by snowballing their bot lane before this aspect of the game becomes relevant. It's like, you know, I don't think Aurora's in a good state. But Faker does poorly on Aurora. Why does he do poorly on Aurora? Aurora's lane phase is decided by how well you play level 1, 2, 3, 4. It is so important to get value there because her interaction with Electrocute and her spells is extremely powerful. Beyond that, when you're 6, you need to have created a big enough advantage in the isolated 1v1 to then win jungle, support, and mid lane fights. Because that's what this champion needs to do. Fight. And this is so antithetical to how T1 play. That's why this champion never works for them. Obviously, he makes some mechanical mistakes here and there, but the stylistic thing is very important here in this discussion, right? Very, very important. Anyhow, T1's uniqueness can be their biggest strength, but it can also be their biggest weakness. They are the team that drives the game through bot, and the teams in HLE, BOG drive the game through mid. T1 is unique here, and that makes them awkward, I think that the way it pays and carrier lane is their biggest strength, right? But at the same important detail is that a very big concern of mine is the laning of the solo lanes of T1. It has definitely gotten better with the past changes. And I think that a big benefit, as I mentioned before, for Doran is the fact that lane swaps are occurring, with, of course, grubs being a higher priority for teams, which allows Doran to be a team fighter, Faker to be a team fighter, and a roamer, because this is their strengths. It's just still overcoming Bin and Zeus in an individual lane is going to be very tricky. Very, very tricky. And I think the same thing can be said for Knight and Zeka. But T1's uniqueness makes me think that there is a slight chance. But I do think that BLG and HLE have better chances. Now, for the rest of the field, G2 versus Top Esports, this conversation is the one that is most interesting. I think the fact that G2 play against Top Esports in the first round is the best timing possible for G2. I think G2, when it comes to their prep work and meta read, even though internationally I think that Dylan Falco has had a lot of misses, but usually that's at Worlds. MSI, he seems to be in his element when it comes to the meta reads. At Worlds, there's been G2 runs where I'm like, what on earth are we doing? How can Kalista Draven bans just remove our testicles from the game completely that badly, you know? Orianna, Kalista, Draven, ban. Never won a game again. And then we had the World Championship where they pick Orianna Nocturne over and over again. But at MSI, honestly, at MSI, I think G2 has had a very good track record. They have overperformed at MSIs in context of their player skill. Even the fact that they took one game off of Genji, if you guys remember. If you just remember. Look, just because G2 play against Top Esports in the first round, I think that G2 will end up above them. But I wouldn't be surprised if somehow G2, you know, I think G2 will do better than Top Esports because of the lack of experience on Feng Yue and Zuyan. And I think that in the first matchup, I give like a slight edge to G2, but it's just slight. And it's because of intangibles. I don't think Top Esports is bad, by the way. They are really good. But I always worry about players going to the first international tournament and that being MSI. You don't get to feel how it feels to win when you go to MSI. You don't get to feel that. And it really, really matters. You might get to play against Furia or an NA team. That could be nice for you, but MSI is a very tough tournament. Very tough tournament. I think it's the opposite, actually. G2 will get better with time. No. Why? If you have a strong meta read, that is way more important for the beginning of the tournament than later. People are going to have information on you, and they get to perceive you and watch you. An additional detail, right? First Stand was a tournament that started very fast. MSI, these teams have had a month to prepare. Early performance being bad at First Stand is related to logistics in my mind. Here I will just put Casey, LYON, Team Liquid. In that order. Hans should be lower. As I mentioned when I talked about the ADC position, is that I can argue for putting Kalist, Berserker, like I can trade positions with these guys. But I have a deep appreciation. Like, as you notice in this list, I have an appreciation for international experience. Look, I think Kalist has a better regular split than Hansama. Hansama and Kalist play in a way more competitive region than Berserker. I think Berserker did the most Korean shit out of all these three guys. Like, he did some crazy shit, bro. I still can't believe Dokla got MVP, bro. Why did Dokla get MVP in that fucking... Remember that series he played against C9, bro? Me bomba, claro, he was insane. So it's like, these three guys, I can argue for it either way. But I just have an appreciation for Hansama Internationals. Shouldn't Faker be higher than Cream if we've had experience of playing well at Internationals? It's a mix of everything. The reason I put Faker lower here is because T1's not going to play that way. Quid has been so uninteresting this entire year, bro. Like, my man Quid is disappointing me. I'm going to be honest. Go bold if LYON makes finals? Sure. Bro, if LYON make finals, I'll run down the street naked with 3 donuts around my dick, man. What do you think about the KC-LYON matchup? I think KC is better than LYON. I think LYON have mastered how to beat NA teams. But sadly, mastering that is not going to help you at all internationally. The main issue being, you know, they don't take good fights. They wait. They're playing a lot of passive situations. because they know the enemy is eventually going to lose their own game. And this type of a playstyle never goes far internationally, bro. So we're gonna have a situation where T1, the first round, imagine how stupid this is, guys. This is very dumb. This is the dumbest part about this bracket, is that the first round, G2, because they made it second place at first stand, they get to play against Top Esports, no matter what. Because Top Esports is Pool 4, together with the other Pool 4 team that comes out of playins. So T1 and Top Esports is Pool 4, while an LCP team and a Brazil team is Pool 3. So just because G2 made second place at first stand, they can't play against a Brazil team in round 1, nor can they play against an LCP team. Isn't that hilarious? And BOG, for going first at first stand, get to play against T1. Nice. BOG, you won. You won. Here, play against Korea. It does make for more exciting matches throughout the tourney, not just the end though. Bro, LYON might play against Brazil round 1, bro. That's the point? If that's the point, I don't want the point. HOD just singing payphone? Yeah, they get to play an LCP team or Brazil. Alright, so look. BOG, G2, Pool 1. They play against Pool 4. Who is Pool 4? Top Esports. And the qualified from play-in. So Pool 4 is Top Esports and T1. Pool 3 is Team Secret Wales and Furia. So Pool 2 plays against 3 and 3. And obviously this seeding is completely cooked. Like, come on. I really want to see Furia versus LYON, yeah. I would love it, bro. Give me some tattoo action. How many teams qualify from play-ins? Only one.